Exile and return, Babylon to Persia. Jerusalem, the city of David and Solomon, had reached unprecedented heights of spiritual, cultural, and political significance. Its first temple stood as a testament to faith and ambition, a symbol of divine presence on earth. But even the mightiest cities are vulnerable, and Jerusalem was about to face its first great catastrophe, the destruction of the temple and the exile of its people. In 586 BC, the Babylonian Empire, under King Nebuchadnezzar II, laid siege to Jerusalem. The city's fortifications, strong as they were, could not withstand the imperial might. The Babylonians breached the walls, and what followed was a calamity that would reverberate through centuries. The temple, which had been the heart of the city's spiritual life, was set ablaze. Sacred objects were looted, priests slaughtered, and the people were driven into exile. Jerusalem, once a vibrant capital of Israel, became a city of ruins, smoke, and grief. This destruction was more than physical, it was existential. The loss of the temple meant the loss of a focal point for religious identity, the place where heaven and earth had intersected. For the Israelites, the exile was both punishment and trial. Communities were uprooted and scattered across Babylon, forced to navigate life in foreign lands while holding on to traditions, law, and faith. The prophets of the time, such as Jeremiah, spoke of the sorrow, the longing for home, and the hope that one day Jerusalem would rise again. Yet the exile was also a period of profound cultural and spiritual development. Far from their homeland, the Israelites codified laws, preserved oral histories, and deepened religious practices. The Torah, as a guiding text, became central to communal identity. Rituals that had been tied to the temple were adapted for life without it, showing the remarkable resilience of a people whose identity was bound to a city now out of reach. After decades of captivity, change came not through revolt, but through imperial decree. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia conquered Babylon, bringing a new era of tolerance and political vision. Unlike the Babylonians, Cyrus understood the power of religion and local governance. His policies allowed conquered peoples to return to their homelands and restore their places of worship. For the Jewish exiles, this was a moment of opportunity. They could return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple, although under foreign oversight. The return was neither immediate nor easy. Families had been dispersed for generations, fields lay fallow, and the ruins of the temple loomed as a stark reminder of what had been lost. Yet those who returned carried with them hope, religious devotion, and the determination to restore their city and faith. They cleared debris, laid foundations, and re-established communal life, rebuilding not only the temple but also the walls and streets that had been shattered. This period marked the beginning of what is known as the Second Temple Era, a time of both reconstruction and reflection, when Jerusalem's spiritual significance was reaffirmed even amid political subjugation. The Persian period brought not only reconstruction but also administrative innovation. Jerusalem was no longer fully autonomous. It existed within the Persian imperial system, with governors appointed to oversee the city and collect tribute. Yet the city retained a degree of self-governance in religious matters, and the rebuilt temple became the center of Jewish worship. Festivals, sacrifices, and rituals resumed, rekindling the spiritual life that had been interrupted by conquest and exile. This era also reinforced a profound lesson. Jerusalem's significance did not lie solely in its walls, gates, or even the grandeur of its temples. Its power lay in the people who carried its memory, laws, and faith, ensuring that the city remained a spiritual center even when its political autonomy was constrained. Scholars and scribes flourished, preserving sacred texts and traditions that would guide future generations. In a sense, exile had strengthened the cultural and religious identity of Jerusalem, transforming loss into resilience. Yet the city's restoration was not without challenges. Tensions arose between returning exiles and those who had remained in the land, creating social and economic friction. Resources were scarce, political oversight imposed by Persia could be intrusive, and the city remained vulnerable to external threats. The new walls and the rebuilt temple symbolized hope and continuity, but they also highlighted the precariousness of Jerusalem's position. During this period, the city's identity became increasingly defined by faith as much as by territory. The temple was the axis of worship, but local synagogues began to emerge, providing centers for teaching, prayer, and community. Leaders such as Ezra and Nehemiah played pivotal roles, enforcing law, organizing social structures, and ensuring that the community adhered to the principles that had guided their ancestors. Their efforts ensured that Jerusalem's religious identity would endure through centuries of upheaval. The Persian period also laid the groundwork for Jerusalem as a crossroads of culture and influence. The city was part of a vast empire stretching from the Indus River to the Mediterranean, exposing its inhabitants to ideas, trade, and administrative practices from across the region. This exposure would later influence the Hellenistic rulers and prepare the city for encounters with successive empires. Ultimately, the exile and return period crystallized a central truth about Jerusalem. It is a city that cannot be defined solely by its buildings or rulers. Its essence lies in the resilience of its people, the continuity of its faith, and the enduring symbolic weight it carries across time. Even when conquered, devastated, or marginalized, Jerusalem's spiritual gravity attracted communities and leaders committed to preserving its significance. As Jerusalem rebuilt its walls and temple, it entered a period of careful renewal, blending reverence for the past with adaptation to new political realities. The city's streets, once echoing with cries of exile, now carry prayers, songs, and the bustling sounds of daily life. Merchants arrived to sell grain, artisans restored sacred objects, and families settled in renewed neighborhoods. In this way, Jerusalem began to reclaim its identity, not merely as a political capital, but as a living spiritual center with a legacy of endurance and hope. By the end of the Persian period, Jerusalem had transformed from a devastated city into a symbol of survival and continuity, poised on the threshold of new challenges. Its history demonstrated that even the most catastrophic losses could be converted into strength, that exile could deepen faith, and that the city's sacred significance could outlast conquest and oppression. These lessons would echo through the coming centuries, shaping Jerusalem as a city forever at the intersection of faith, politics, and history. The story of exile and return teaches us that Jerusalem's identity is inseparable from the human spirit that defends, rebuilds, and believes in it, a city defined as much by its people as by its walls or temples. The Second Temple, modest compared to Solomon's grandeur, nevertheless became a beacon of hope and devotion, reminding all that Jerusalem is not simply a place, but a living testament to endurance, faith, and aspiration.